So, Mr. Jackson Munch, tell me what's on your mind.
Well, Doc, I'm doing fine. But please, now that I'm in Equestria, you can call me by my equestrian name, Sketchpad Grumbles.
Very well, Mr. Grumbles. What brings you to my office today?
Well, my issue is the concept of time. How we save it, how we spend it, and how much of it we have.
And how has this been an issue for you?
Well, you see, like most people my age, I'm still in the process of achieving independence both financially and in terms of living conditions. I'm 24, slowly going on 25. I just got my driver's license last year, and yet I'm still living with my parents. There are so many things I'd like to see and do, but I constantly worry that I might not be able to achieve the ideal life that I've been trying to reach. Or even worse, that I may end up losing my folks before it even happens.
And what sort of ideal life did you have in mind exactly?
Basically, an independent life. A life where I don't have to worry about my parents 24/7, where I can go wherever I want, whenever I want, where the only person I have to look out for is me. That is until I decide to start a family, which is another goal I'm trying to achieve on the side. But hey, aim high, right?
And you are uncertain how to reach such a goal? May I ask what you've been spending the bulk of your free time on these days?
Well, ever since I left college, most of my time has been spent working on projects for other people in a way to keep myself busy. Whether it be a freelance gig, commissions, or animations and illustrations for YouTube. The feeling I get from working on projects to expand my portfolio fills me with determination and gives me hope that a studio would see my stuff and possibly help me attain a full-time job. However, there are times where I have to remind myself that in order to have that, I need a car of my own. And with my living conditions being the way they are, it's been a bit impossible for me. It also doesn't help that I tend to underestimate my energy level and ignore my sleep schedule just to get some work done.
So you're worrying about whether your current efforts are going to be enough to sustain you in the long run? Considering you feel that parts of your circumstances are impossible to overcome, how often do you step back and think about what else you could be striving towards at the moment?
Honestly, I feel like this has been going on since I got my gastric bypass surgery back in February of last year. After that, I've been more focused on getting both my independence and my social life in check, resulting in me obtaining my driver's license back in September. At that time, I tried so hard to become more socially active with my peers. But whenever I would ask them if they want to hang out, they would always tell me that they are too busy or they just don't have the time. Whenever this happens, I always ask myself the question, why do we go through all these links to get to square 2, only to find out that we're still at square 1?
Well, I suppose that begs the question then. How much struggle are you willing to go through in order to reach this ideal life you speak of? You mentioned that your efforts thus far haven't been enough, so would that mean an even greater sacrifice is necessary before you can achieve your goals? How much do you really want to change in your life as a whole?
That's the thing. I really can't say. I mean, I want to achieve the goal of an ideal life, but I'm worried that it would mean losing my parents in the process. And don't get me wrong, they're good people. They even talked about letting me stay with them if they ever find a new house somewhere. However, at the same time, I worry that the day will eventually come where I'd have to take care of them on a daily basis. And it wouldn't be until then that I would finally be able to achieve the goal of my ideal life.
I see. There is quite a bit I could discuss here, Sketchpad. I could talk about developing habits on a daily basis that slowly shift you more towards working outside of your comfort zone. I could talk about how the time you have now is far more valuable than the time you'd have several years down the road, since, as the saying goes, you reap what you sow. But I think the most helpful advice I could give you today would be to curb your expectations, so to speak. I have no doubt that the work you're putting into your art is further developing your wonderful talents, and that the more commissions you do, the more you'll get noticed by others. And perhaps those same efforts will eventually lead you into the life you seek. But I worry about the mindset you've been focusing on is actually stifling your growth, so to speak. Whenever you think about how few choices you have, or talk about how your current circumstances will be impossible to change without a specific tool or outside influence. I myself had this exact mindset when I graduated from college many years ago. believing that I had the knowledge, the skills, and the passion to take on the career that I had been striving towards through all those classes and courses. And hitting a brick wall I felt I could not overcome simply because all my efforts to find a job kept leading into dead ends. No one wanted to hire someone just out of college when there were already others out there with years of experience behind them. And believe me, when you know full well you are capable of doing the work and yet no one wants to give you that chance, it can seriously mess with your self confidence. It had become so bad that for a few months I was working as a grocery store checker just so I could have any kind of income. I kept feeling so frustrated that my potential wasn't being used anywhere near to its fullest. Until I realized it wasn't really the outside influences or lack of tools that was holding me back. It was my own expectations of what I felt I deserved. And it took a great deal of humbling my own pride before I discovered a solution. As you may or may not know, I've been working a career as an accountant for about 10 years now. But I hadn't acquired that position by starting out on a full-time basis doing the work I had learned from a college degree. I started out with less than 10 hours a week doing busy work that didn't even require a high school level of education. And as much as I kept telling myself, I know I'm capable of doing far more than this, I just kept asking my employers what else they could have need of. Little by little, bit by bit, I had to prove to those around me that I was valuable. And ever so slowly, they began to see my potential. Over the course of 7 months, doing almost nothing but busy work well beneath my level of skill, I was finally able to ask for a full-time job and start accomplishing tasks I had the actual schooling for. And even today, nearly 10 years later, I still have that nagging feeling that I should be so much further in my career than I actually am. But when I look back and realize how far I've come simply because I curbed my expectations, I understand that I actually couldn't have accomplished this much if I still held on to only doing what I felt I deserved. It's a very hard-wrought lesson, but it's one that I genuinely hope many others can and will learn. And as for you, Sketchpad, I can already see that you have potential in your talents and have even accomplished some impressive work. But if you keep telling yourself that your circumstances are simply impossible to change without some specific tool or outside influence entering your life first, I fear that you will keep stifling your own growth in the long run. Does any of this make sense to you, Sketchpad?
Yeah, Doc. I can see where you're coming from. I know I need to start looking for jobs outside of my career in order to achieve my dream life, which is something I've tried before, but I have been mostly met with unsatisfying results. Still, that doesn't mean I can't try again, nor that I should put my art to the side in order to reach my goal. I need to start focusing on what I need to do to earn my independence instead of just waiting for it to come to me, even if it means working jobs I'm not too fond of.
I wish you the best of luck with that, Sketchpad. There will be tremendous struggle, I have no doubt. But if you really want this ideal life you speak of, then I hope you can find a way to make that struggle worth the effort. Shall we continue on this next week?
Sure thing, Doc. Hopefully at that rate I'll be out of square one and on to square two. Or more realistically, square one and a half. I'll see you then, okay?
Looking forward to it. Take care. It's good to be helping.